Hey, this is Matthew Harvey here with the 12 o'clock siren. We're recording live at the 903 Broadband Studios at Cowboy Corner on the southeast side of the downtown Leonard Square. On my left hand is James Snowvid Hartley.
Snowvid, huh? I like that. That's one of the better, what do you call those?
Middle names? Nickname?
Yeah, but I mean, like,
alias?
Like Snowvid, Snowpocalypse.
I liked Snowvid. I thought it was, clever weather event names.
Sure, yeah. Anyway, yep, I'm here. Happy to be here.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
It is now sunny, and a few days later after that unfortunate event, but we're back.
Yeah, we are. That was crazy. I hadn't seen -4 degrees since Alaska.
Yeah. Now you've seen it in Leonard, Texas.
I know.
Wild times, wild times.
It is wild times. I like to consider myself a little preparedness-minded,
Yeah.
you know, and I was like, here's my time. Turns out I ran out of propane.
Time to shine. You ran out of propane.
I did. Right when it started to snow on Sunday night, our fire went out, and I was like, that's odd. And I went outside to the propane tank, and it read 0%.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But
should have had a different nickname for you.
I know. Not a prepper, Hartley.
This is a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one.
We have a special guest coming back for the second time. Just over a year ago, he made his first appearance with us. Mr. T-Bone.
How you doing, sir?
All right.
Well,
welcome back, sir.
All right.
It has been a challenging year, hasn't it?
It sure is.
So, have you ever seen anything like this in your life?
Not like this, but I've seen a depression that I thought was worse.
Well, sure. Sure, I guess so.
Went through it.
Kind of had the same feel to it a little bit, I think.
Well, I wasn't old enough to know it hit in 29, but I could feel it where we lived.
Sure. I think that's probably it gets likened to the depression a lot.
Yeah, I keep thinking that's what we're going to have here, and then I say, oh, it couldn't be that bad. It couldn't be that.
Well, they just keep printing more money, and I guess it keeps staving it
the
off.
standards of depression have changed, though, because the depression like you experience is nothing like we hopefully will, but
the depression I went through, the banks all went broke.
Right.
My granddad had a little money, both of them. They lost all that, never did regain it, and it was bad. And, of course, we lived on the farm, and there wasn't any jobs available. Not one on the farm. When you got your crop out, it was over. And you just go to town and buy the essentials to get you through the winter, and that was it. No money. No money to spend. And we went through that up through the 40s.
In that way, like being broke, basically?
No, it didn't. Everybody I knew was happy.
Sure.
They didn't know any better.
Full bellies, I guess.
Yeah. We had plenty to eat what it was.
Sure.
Chicken in the spring.
Yeah.
Hogs in the fall.
That was one of your more notable quotes from the first episode. You said, "Are you happy?
Happy.
Yeah. Are you paying your bills? Yeah.
I wanted to tell you
then
that.
Stay where you're at."
I'm 98, and I've always been able to pay my bills. And we would always been happy.
Yeah.
Leave home, never shut the doors, never put a latch on them, would nobody steal anything.
Yeah.
And
it's a little bit of a different world now.
Yeah, it's a different world, and I think about that recession every day that I went through. But it couldn't be that bad now, I don't guess.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be. The thing that worries me, because you talk about having a full belly when you were going through the depression, your family, the supply chain was local, and y'all knew how to do things, raise food.
Yeah, we raised everything we eat, except Dad would come in the fall, and he'd buy about 100 pounds of beans, flour, and a few little things like that, and that was it.
Sure.
Absolutely, we had no money and could borrow any.
So you're keeping those beans and flour in the kitchen in a big bin, or is it where would you keep that at home?
I didn't hear you.
Where would you keep those supplies?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But we'd keep them somewhere until spring.
Sure.
I mean, eat on them. And that's about it. We'd kill a hog, in the fall or two. And that, if they didn't spoil, we'd have meat through the winter. I remember one winter, about in the 30s, we had 3 big hogs. Dad killed them, salted them down. About a week, it'd come a rainy spell. Another 2 or 3 weeks, we put them in the wagon, hauled them, threw them in the ditch.
Oh, man.
That was it.
Mm.
And we couldn't buy any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's looking forward to those.
Now, everybody in town, did they all, for the most part, grow their own or have their own? Or, I mean, was that pretty much everybody? Or
Well, not everybody. I guess the people, doctors and all here, better, but nobody had much money.
Sure.
I mean, you could buy, after that recession, I've seen land sell for $20 an acre.
Wow. Yeah, and probably being sold by the bank.
Yeah, or an insurance company.
Uh-huh.
My granddad bought a farm. I may have told you this before. In the 20s, they say things were booming. Early 20s, cotton was 75 cents a pound, and the booming. And I know 2 or 3 people that bought farms. One of them, my granddad, and he gave $350 an acre for it. And that hit the next year, and he lost it, and he'd paid down $30,000 on it. And this place right up north where I live on the highway, Mr. Evans, he had one he gave $450 for. You don't know Clifton Evans.
Yes, sir.
It's his granddad.
Okay.
And he lost it, and he'd borrowed money on another farm, and he lost it all. So I know what recession is.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Go ahead.
How did people recover from that? I mean,
Well, we didn't really till after the war started. It got much better for the people that moved to Dallas.
sure.
But farmer didn't get much better till about 50.
Really?
And I never did want to go to Dallas and work.
Sure.
I'm 98 years old, and I've never punched a time clock.
Now that is something to be said.
And I've paid my bills, and I've lived a happy life.
Right.
I still get letters from my daughters. They was raised out on the farm with 2 girls. And, of course, they did have a couple of Shetland ponies.
Sure.
And they say we had the best life of anybody. And they both married, happily married, still got the same husband. And I get a letter from one of them pretty often telling me how great it was living on the farm. Didn't have anything.
Well, I think some people nowadays are learning that lesson. After this coronavirus,
Yes.
we're seeing a
They
big
sure are.
people moving from the cities out to buying up property because they say, we gotta
Shortly
get
after
this.
we did an episode with you last year, we did a bunch of survival style, episode where people are interested in growing their own things or starting a garden or,
I tell you what you can do. You can take a small space, if you've got it and want to, and raise what you eat. Of course, we did it every year. We didn't buy anything. We get out the first bale of cotton, we might get a little blony.
Yeah. One thing we didn't really touch on in the last episode was you and hunting.
Honey,
Was hunting a big part of your life? I mean,
yes.
what were you?
that was sports, my sports.
Sure.
That's what I live for, to hunt.
Cool.
Any particular favorite thing to hunt?
No, anything that we could eat, I'd shoot it.
Sure, sure. Now, was there deer here then? Because
No.
there hasn't really traditionally been a lot of deer in Northeast Texas.
I never seen a deer here till I don't know what year, and I never seen a coon here until in late 40s.
Wow.
Now
Really?
they're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
In Mink, in 1950, I made 1 bale of cotton off of 50 acres.
Oof.
1 bale. Got 20 cents a pound for it.
Oof.
So I hunted mink all winter. A friend of mine, we caught about 50 of them. $50 a piece.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that made some money.
I get by like that.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to start going and find some mink. They're not really around here anymore, are they?
You know,
What is a mink?
I don't believe I ever seen.
It's in the weasel family.
I don't believe I ever seen a mink out here just running around anyway. out it. We caught him.
So you'd hunt around here for mink?
Yeah, in these
Okay.
creeks.
Well, yeah. Where are you looking for them? Creeks and
Creeks and drifts.
okay.
But that was a pleasure, too.
Yeah. What are you shooting with?
We'd hunt them with dogs
Okay.
and then get them in
I
the
said
drift.
shooting. Oh wow.
It's like a weasel,
Yeah,
basically.
kind of like
right?
a ferret.
Ferret. Yeah, it's in the weasel family.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting.
Did you
know-
shoot them all?
I don't know where there's any down there, but I never seen any before I hunted for them. They'd be
They're just
just
scary.
on the creeks, but there's a lot of them around on the creeks.
I've seen something passing a creek at our house on the dirt road that resembled a weasel.
It might be a mink, too.
It was pretty big. Like, I don't want to say it was like a sea otter or something like that,
Yeah.
but it was pretty big and had that very arched back when it walked, you know.
Huh.
These
So-
are not very large.
I've seen another one at the end of our road as well.
I did see a
Might be
beaver
something
the
like
other
that.
day.
Possums, I'd hunt possums and put them on the board, skin them, get a dime a piece for them.
Really?
And in winter, I'd hunt those.
We're-
Possum used to be a part of a lot of people's groceries. Have you ever eaten it?
Yeah, my granddad, I don't like it.
Really?
But my granddad in the fall, he'd had a big granary. And he'd catch 3 or 4 possums in the early fall, put them in there and feed them, get all that dirt out of them.
Uh-huh.
And boy, it's a greasy mess. when-
Is that's what I've heard about coon too.
Greasy.
People eat coon and they say it's kind of nasty. It's greasy.
Yeah, I've cooked coons for people when I was in the barbecue business.
That's how most people do it is barbecue. Yeah.
Wow.
So did you ever get curious and take?
One guy brought me 5 up there one night. They was going to have a party. He said, I want you to cook these coons. And he had them skinned. And I said, you going to cut their head off, aren't you? And he said, no, I want their eyes left in 'em."
Oh. James knows about eating eyeballs.
I was made to. I ate a rabbit's eyeball once. I was doing some training for the Air Force, and they said, "Hey, you got to do this." It wasn't my favorite experience, I'll tell you.
Oh, I'll tell you what. We'd kill them rabbits and eat them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The rest of it's okay. It's the eyeball that I'm not a fan of.
So all dog hunting then?
Huh?
All dog hunting?
I didn't understand.
So you just used dogs for most of what you hunted.
Like rabbits, no, I just take my target out there and shoot them, see them setting.
Okay.
Dogs on the mink, no.
Right. Now, was there quail around here at that time?
Yes, but
Yeah.
there's not now.
There's not now. Now, I did see a covey a few months ago
Where?
out by my house. I'm going to keep it real quiet because I don't.
Where do you live?
Out towards Bailey.
I haven't seen a quail in this country since '93.
Yes, sir.
I used to keep good bird dogs, and I just finally got rid of them.
That's my favorite is quail hunting.
Oh, it was mine, too.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I
You
actually,
live between here and Bailey?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when I say covey, I'm being a little generous. It was a few birds.
Yeah, there wasn't many here, maybe from 6 to 12.
Right.
But you go out West Texas and there'll be 50 in one.
I know. We when about the time I got old enough to start quail hunting, they had really kind of moved away from East Texas, and you had to go to West Texas.
Yeah.
But one time we were hunting, my dad and I were hunting in Stephenville, and we got into like 23 coveys, and they all had 20 or 30 birds a pop
Oh,
in them.
man.
It was good.
I've never been in that.
It was great. There in South Texas, you can still do that, but
Yeah.
it's a long
Well,
drive down
my
there.
bud's at Breckenridge, and you can go out there, or used to. I don't know how many is out there now. I don't know whether the fire ants or bobcats or what got there, but it just stopped.
I think it's the fire ants. The biologists don't say that's true, but you put 2 and 2 together. You don't see fire ants, then they move in, and then you don't have any quail. So,
That's
and they're a
right.
ground bird. So,
Yeah.
Eating
you
up
know.
the eggies.
I did buy. I bought my dad raised dogs too, and we lost our line, and I picked up a point and dog journal about a year ago, and it kind of relit the fire. So I was looking around. We were given a dog, and he was a hybrid dog. So I bought a few birds, pen raised birds,
Yeah.
to come, to see if he was worth anything on. Well, I let 2 of them go. We let 2 of them get away. And I saw them hanging around my house for a long time, and I was going, "Come on, buddies," just but I haven't seen them since.
Yeah, I used to train bird dogs. But I had a lot of fun hunting.
Did y'all? So there was quail. Obviously, we talked, and you hunted mink or you trapped mink.
Yeah.
And rabbits. Any dove back then? Did y'all shoot
Oh
dove?
yeah, hunted. Not. I never did. I never hunted doves till I was 40 or 50-year-old.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I guess there were some here, but I never hunted them.
Sure. Occasionally, you'll see a turkey here. Very
I
occasionally.
haven't seen a turkey.
We'd always see them at Webb Creek, Webb Hill. Sorry.
Webb Hill.
Back
Yeah.
a few years
See 'em
ago,
out there.
there were a few pheasants up and down this railroad track.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've seen one turkey up here. I was in high school and we were eating breakfast on our back patio, and we looked up and there was a turkey walking across our back pasture.
Huh. Cool.
I was just like, all right, there's a turkey. I've never hunted them though. I'd like to. I hear it's addicting. So
You mentioned 3 hogs that your dad would kill.
Yeah.
How long does that last you?
Oh, it'd last all winter and
Yeah.
up in the spring till some of it would get spoiled after hot
That's
weather.
salted.
Huh?
That's just salted.
they cure it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cured.
Yeah.
Rub it in a cure,
Yeah.
and you get. But we never did hardly lose any back then. The winters were cold, but you couldn't do that now here.
Right. Yeah.
It'd ruin. But
Did y'all have a smokehouse?
yeah, well, didn't smoke in it, but smoke them. But we had one we hung the meat in,
Gotcha.
and same way a chicken in the spring. We had plenty of chicken to eat.
Sure.
That's the reason I tell you, I always kind of had a dislike for preachers when I was small.
Really?
Mother and Dad were real religious. We didn't have a car. And the neighbors would come pick them up when they went to church. But anyway, in the spring, the neighbors would bring the preacher and the singer and 2 or 4 families out there. And Mother'd have that chicken stacked up and cooked on there. And they'd go to the table, and they'd sit there, and they'd talk, and they'd eat. And they'd get through, they'd back and talk some more. We stand around there to our mouths just a watering.
Huh.
So, oh,
It kept you from the table, huh?
yeah. And then the women ate, and then we ate.
Man.
So
It's changed now.
at what point in life did you start buying things from a grocery store, or realize that you were buying things from a grocery store rather than getting the that meat
Well,
from your smokehouse or cure?
I don't remember. It is way on up before we bought anything much.
I mean, I'm sure it's a slow
just-
process, but at some point you got to go, hey, we used to do this, that way.
Yeah, there just wasn't any money available, I'll tell you, till the government came out with their programs, which started or something.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, he'd always worked as a sharecropper. That's half. You get half. So he borrowed the money in 1931, bought 2 teams of mules and equipment and all, and a milk cow. And I don't remember where he borrowed the money. I know he borrowed it because he didn't have it. And the second crop we was going to make, we didn't make a thing. It didn't rain. He lost it all. Never did recover. In 1970, my dad worked for, $21 a month. We lived on a farm, and he worked 6 days for $21 a month.
Wow.
And there was 5 of us.
I'm probably happy to have that $21.
That's about 15 cents a day for each one of us. So you can figure how much groceries we bought.
Sure. Yeah. Man. Man, I had a question pertaining to that, and it lost. It went out.
That's me.
Jeez. Well, we're just all going to be sitting around here not realizing what we're talking about. I want to go back to the hunting for just a second, though.
Yeah.
How did you start trapping mink? I mean, how did that even come about? I know you had the cotton failed, and so you said, well, I got to do something.
Well, I never caught any mink till after I was about, 40 years old.
Right.
Never did start hunting them. 1950s when my cousin and I caught those 50.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we had hounds, 3 or 4 hounds that we just go hunting with for the sports of it.
Sure.
Tree possums and
Just do whatever.
Got to catching some mink, but they didn't bring anything first, and then later on they didn't bring anything. People wouldn't wear that mink.
You just happened to catch those at the right time then, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of people were raising them in their yard too back then.
Really? That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Repopulate mink.
Yeah. And now I'm kind of curious. I want to go get a mink dog or something. See if there's still any around here.
No, you didn't see many fat. I don't remember seeing any fat people in my young. One man I ever knew that was fat.
How do you manage that?
That's
then?
pretty awesome.
I don't know, but he died
Yeah. Well, yeah.
young.
Sure. Well, that's
Probably really disappointed with me.
yeah, that's changed.
They just didn't get fat.
No groceries.
Yeah.
No groceries.
Hard work.
But I never was, say, real hungry. Beans and potatoes tasted pretty good.
Sure.
Tomatoes and all. We had all that.
Milk and cornbread.
Cornbread and milk.
Yeah.
Now, did y'all have a dairy cow, a milk cow?
Part of the time we did, and part of it we didn't.
Sure. That's something we never did that growing up.
What was the dairy around here?
There wasn't a dairy then there was a dairy out here at Melton's, where's out to the 78 here,
Yep.
where that Johnson's got that place.
Yep.
There was a dairy there
On
back in the 20s.
on his side of the road or on the north
where
side?
that big barn is south.
Okay.
Melton Dairy.
That was a local dairy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they deliver milk here in town.
Cool.
Of course, we couldn't buy it any if we wanted it.
Sure.
Right.
So you'd rely on, would you say, neighbors' cow for milk? Where would you get your milk?
We just didn't get any milk.
Okay.
Unless
yeah,
you had
just dip
one.
it out, yeah. Unless you had a cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at us thinking there's options. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I
naive.
remember hoeing cotton for a feller that I was about 10. And he told Dad he'd give me 50 cents a day. They was going to get $1. He'd give me 50 cents if I'd make a hand. And I took a couple of dollars of it, and I was going to buy me a calf. And my granddad said, well, he had some cows. He said, well, I'll just sell you a cow for $5. He sold us a milk cow.
Ah.
Yeah, you can buy a good cow for $5.
It's about getting that way again. Cattle prices are pretty bad right now.
Yeah, if you're in the cow business, it is.
It is. If you're in the packing business, it's all right though.
I don't see how they're making it.
No, there's a lot of questions around now, how that's happening and why. You sell a cow now for $1 a pound, a good one, and then you go to the grocery store and the price of meat's real high.
Yeah,
That doesn't make any sense.
$5 or $6 a pound.
Yeah. So I think the Packers have got it figured out somehow. So
Yeah, they have.
I don't like to advocate. Oh, I don't even want to say this. I don't like to advocate for government intrusion into the market, but
there ought to be a law.
there has been some talk about at least some investigation there. So I would approve of that. I don't know. So you said everything kind of started recovering really in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Really? And that's when you noticed things getting better out here?
Yeah, it began to get better. I know I bought a tractor and rented a farm in 49. Then 50, Jimmy Evans' daddy bought 500 acres of land out here. $50 an acre for it, good pasture.
Still a lot of money, though.
And he hired me to run it.
Yep.
And Jimmy was a kid then.
Okay. So how long did you work there?
Oh, I worked for him about 3 years, and he went broke. And he quit. And then a couple of 3 years more, he asked me, did I want to go back to work? So he bought in again. Then
Sure. Was he running cows or was he farming?
Cows.
Cows, yeah.
I think I bought 60 head to run on that 500 acres, 60 cows.
Where was that place at?
It's out by Valley Creek.
Oh, okay.
You know where Valley Creek
Yes,
is?
sir.
It's right west of the church, down in that bottom and on that next hill.
Oh, okay.
It's cut up. Jimmy got a hold of it, and he was just a kid,
Yep.
and he sold it in small acreage.
That must have lit a fire under him, because that's kind of what he did a lot after that, right?
That's what he did.
Yep.
Man, that guy's got it.
Yeah, he had it figured out, didn't he? So I'm gonna take some notes on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Mr. Evans just passed away this week, huh?
Yeah, that's what you said pre-show.
Yeah,
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, my wife told me yesterday or day before.
Mm.
She had heard. I guess I've been living in a hole. I don't hear anything, but she did. So we hate to. He's a Leonard original.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Everybody knows his name.
I used to, after I retired, I was in my 80s. I retired and I went to work for him then, helping him work cattle.
yes, sir.
And he owned the land from where he lives to Bailey. We could turn right this side of Bailey. There's a good pasture there on the left.
Yes, sir.
He owned that, and he owned all. We could turn them out there and go to his house, and
Wow.
never get on anybody else.
Jeez.
That's pretty cool.
Now, that was probably about the time I moved up here in the 90s. And he was running, when I moved up here, he was running like registered Bramers. Like, was he doing that then?
Yeah. He got them, and the veterinarian told me, he said, well, I know he's smart, but that's the craziest thing he ever done. He took those things and went to crossing them on Herefords.
Yes, sir.
And sell them heifers for $1,200 to $1,800 when there's breeding them.
If by crazy you mean intelligent.
I mean selling all of them.
Yeah,
He had it figured everywhere he went.
so I guess, and I may be speaking out of turn, but I think that is what you would call a Brayford F1 cross. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that, to my understanding, is a great look at that.
It gets an applause.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That makes a good cow, but that straight running Bramer, they tend to be a little crazy.
Oh man, they'd hurt you.
Anything with a lot of ear, my dad says, is not one you want to mess around with there. So,
He bought some good ones and still got some of them. Still crossing.
yeah. Well, that's what I noticed when I moved up here. There was a bunch of humpback cows up there when I drive by. his place.
Where do you live, between here and Bailey?
On the land by 69 here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you get to Bailey, and that you get to the fork, the stop sign in Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
Right there to the left,
Mm-hmm.
that road, that it's 4805, I think, or some people call it Turner Road.
Coming back
It
west?
It kind of follows 11. Yes, sir. Going back west, it follows 11. There's an S curve right there, and I grew up on that place right there. It was the Jones. Mr. Jones owned that place before my parents got it.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I think Miss Creighton lived out there, too, for a while.
Oh, yeah?
She rented from them for a while.
Mm.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's where I live. And I live back out there now, kind of close to it. I built a house out there. So did you know a man named Mr. Holloway that lived out there?
Yes.
So I live on his place.
That's where you live?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought, who'd you get it from? What's it?
So he passed away and left it to his. He had, I think they were stepkids, really. And
Mr. Holloway.
Yes, sir.
Is he the one that fell in the fire?
No, that was Mr. Jones.
Oh, Mr. Jones.
So that's my parents' place. That's where they got that. Yes, sir. And Mr. Holloway and the Jones place were they bordered each other.
Yeah.
So
I knew Miss Jones. She bought barbecue from me all the time. Up there. And he fell in the fire.
I'm going to tell you, he fell in the fire. We didn't know that when we bought that place, but I'm not sure he ever particularly left.
Oh, really?
Because there was some odd happenings out at our house, and
Wow.
we used to kind of say, "Oh, Mr. Jones is still around."
How long did you live there?
I think we moved up in like '96, I think, and my parents still live there today. So 25 years or so.
They still live there?
Yes, sir. They do. They do. My folks do. And we bought that place from them in 96, I think. It was
96.
Yes, sir. And
What's your last name?
Hartley.
Oh, shit, I know your daddy like a book.
Yes, sir. He knows you too. Yes,
I
sir.
sold him that donkey. Old, what's her name?
Dumpling.
Dumpling.
Yeah, they,
Talk to you.
he's still around. She's still around. She's healthy. She's
But I
had a
didn't
good year
know.
at
I
the
didn't
table.
know he had a boy.
Yes, sir. And I've got a sister that's 10 years older than me, but she didn't grow up around
He's
me.
the only one I knew.
Yep.
I'd like to know how casually you were thrown around and fell in the fire. What did that mean?
So the man, Mr. Jones, that owned the property, his wife went to Austin, and he was going to meet her down in Austin like after the weekend or something, and he never showed up, and they couldn't find him, and then they found him. He had a heart attack or something and fallen in a fire.
Oh, wow. Like a
And-
fireplace.
Like he was burning brush.
Okay.
She didn't know. She told me where he had a heart attack or where he just stumbled and fell in there and burned up.
Jeez.
He had heart problems.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
He did. And yeah, so
I was just trying to figure out how that happened.
Yep.
Jeez.
So that was we came up. She leased the property for a while to us with an option, and then we exercised that option to purchase it. And that was in the late 90s.
Yeah, I know him well.
Yeah, he's still out there. He and my mom both. So I find it interesting you knew Mr. Holloway too, because he was a nice man. I liked Mr. Holloway. So I don't even think I ever knew his first name. I just called him Mr. Holloway. So he had a few cows too, and he had a big old garden that he lived out of up until right at the end. So
He lived there.
yes, sir.
I don't remember him.
So
There was another older feller lived back down the road there, an older man by himself.
that was him.
That's what I was thinking. That was his
he
name.
had a house and a trailer house right there,
Yeah.
close to each other.
Okay.
I live within sight of that. I
Yeah.
built a house right there.
Okay.
So, yes, sir. So anyway,
Yeah. Cool.
there you go.
Your daughter brought up a horse walker.
Oh, a horse walker.
A horse walker?
Yeah, I built one when I was training horses. I was trained cutting horses for years. Back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Trained some good horses.
Now, she said y'all were one of the first people around here to have a walker.
Oh, yeah.
Did you made it or?
I had it built.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that help out a lot?
Yeah, I exercised about 6 at a time.
Mm.
I sure didn't have much money,
Sure.
but I had some good horses from people, doctors, and I was going to Fort Worth to cutting horse show, and I had a homemade built trailer, and this was in 65. All them other trainers had new trucks and new trailers. My wife and I got in that old Dodge truck, 55, in that old homemade trailer. We got down to Fort Worth. I pulled in there and I said, honey, let's go out yonder and park in them trees and lead our horse up here, because them people all got good trailers and horses. So we did. The cutting come on, and I went in there and I won it with 68 horses in it.
Oh wow.
And I went and got my old truck and just pulled it right up in there when I left and loaded her.
Now that happened up at the Derby a few years ago. There was some good old boys that had pooled their money and they had a winner.
They sure
and they
did.
kind of did that. They kind of, hey, we don't have the $1 million rigs like everybody else does. So
Yeah, I was riding this pony colt. I broke her for a doctor, and he had left her a couple of years, and she's a good pony. But he's getting anxious, and he hadn't won. I showed her 3 or 4 times, and he hadn't won. And he told me to sell her if I could get $3,000 for her. So I went down, and the guy was going to come down here and look at her from somewhere up north. And he was there when I won the show, and he went around there going to pay him for her. He said, hell no, I'm not selling her now.
how often, like at one time, how many how many horses did you train at one time? Was the
At
most?
one time, I'd
Yes.
keep about 5 to 6.
About 5.
5 to 6.
Now, were these for different people or?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I rode horses, people, at several states.
So you're just breaking them in, getting them trained,
Breaking
and
training.
sending them back.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you have any particularly favorite people you rode horses from?
Well, I had 2 or 3 doctors that really,
Sure.
had some good horses.
These are all for cutting purposes, right? So are they cutting just as a hobby, or are they using them for somebody else who's...
There's the hobby for these doctors.
Yeah.
One of mine that I was riding this good mare for, the IRS got him. He wasn't showing any profit.
Yeah. They'll tend to do that. I don't like those people.
His horse's name was
And
Profit.
he had to get out of business.
Yeah. That's you can take a loss for a couple years, then they start asking questions.
Were any of the doctors good?
One of them did, and the others stayed with me.
Did you have anybody that you said, I will never train a horse for you again? Did y'all ever have any sort of confrontations with any of those people?
No.
No? Pretty good experiences all around?
All the people I know and have rode horses for, ever went to school with, they're all dead.
No.
I went through that Leonard graveyard here about 3 years ago. Wasn't doing anything. Went through all 400 or 500 people down there.
Wow.
And there's not a one of them that I knew that's still alive.
Wow. So, I don't know. I hope this is appropriate to ask, but you talk about that. What is that? I don't want to get too out there, but what does that feel like now? I mean, you're Leonard's most senior man, like when you look back on your life and you take those walks where that's got to be kind of an odd feeling, right?
I guess.
I guess it just is, huh?
Yeah. I had one close to me, and he got killed last week. He was a year. I talked to him about a month ago, and he said, I'm a year and a week younger than you.
Wow.
And he and his wife, that day the snow was on the ground, got in one of these little ATVs.
Yeah.
He is 86 and she is 87. Going to take a ride. He pulled out in front of a car on 121.
Oh, no.
I heard about that, actually.
She died, and he's about dead.
Oh, no. Sorry to hear that.
I'm definitely sorry to hear that.
And there's nobody else close to me in age.
Wow.
I wonder who that would be. That'd be an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
I've told several, I believe I can whip anybody in Leonard my age or older.
I think that's true.
Yeah. That's funny. I bet you can whip some people younger too, though.
I don't think so. I wouldn't try that.
So I think we talked about it a little bit last time that we had you on, but I'm real interested in this southeast corner of what it was like in the 20s, 30s, 40s.
Oh, right here?
Yes, sir.
Well, I can tell you all about it.
We'd like to hear some of it.
And it was a guy run a gambling joint here and sold whiskey. And he didn't nobody bother him. He was bold about it. And you could just pull up there and blow your horn. They'd come out, sell you some, go on about your business.
So it wasn't necessarily like a saloon. I mean,
No.
like we see in the movies or whatever.
No, there was another place right joined it there, a little cafe. And there's a lady owned it. Now you could go in there and buy a drink over the counter. She just set it up there too. That's funny to me. And now then you can buy it anywhere and get drunk and
Yeah.
carry your gun. And back then they'd put you in jail if they caught you shooting dice.
That's crazy.
Those bootleggers would come out before I lived out there, and they'd stash that whiskey out in the country. I don't know why they didn't put it here.
Yeah.
I was flying out there one day, Christmas Eve, and I saw one come down the road, had somebody in there with him, and he stopped at 5 different light posts and got out and put half a pint of whiskey, or pint. When he left, I just walked down there and got it.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, I had.
So who would be taking you to jail back then?
Huh?
Local police or sheriff or...
Wasn't nobody hard to take you to jail. They didn't. You can believe it or not, but people didn't hardly walk women across this south side.
Really?
They wouldn't. But I've seen them right out there in the middle of the street, just fighting, rolling around on them brick a Saturday afternoon.
Some of that firewater gets your spirits up a little bit.
But I never seen them kill anybody, just fight. They'd be a crew of boys, 2 crews come in there, just want to fight.
Yeah. So that even happened up into our day and age. I don't know if it happens now.
But I don't think they were all that bad, as they say. They just sold whiskey and
Sure.
gambled a little.
What kind of gambling they do? Shoot dice, play cards?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the local law enforcement like? Was there a town marshal or a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at first, let's see, long in the 40s, they just had a night mark that walked the alleys at night. Ever so often, he'd walk around behind the stores and check them.
Right.
Us boys come over here to town, he'd want one of us to go with him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have his job now, would you?
No, not now.
I was thinking about that earlier because you don't need traffic police. Back then, I would assume.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't have, how did that develop?
There wasn't people writing seatbelt tickets back then.
No.
Oh, we had bootleggers all around here. And they just run this part down here, and finally they moved got a little short guy out of Bonham, called him the Green Hornet. He drove a little green car, and he stopped it all.
Really?
All of it.
Oh,
Didn't take him long. Carried a little old black jack, and he'd take you to jail.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if he was like a treasury agent or something. Who was it that got on? What the people during the Prohibition? What did you? Oh man, they had a task force of people that was out.
Mm-hmm. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Many a Saturday night I've been up here, and they'd have a fight right down there and cut one another up, and in this little calaboose right here, they'd haul him down there and call the doctor.
So he'd come down and stitch him up?
Dr. Pan would come down there, and they'd drag him out in headlights there and sew him up.
No way.
I was there one night, and they sewing up one of these drunks, and he said, "Don't let that so-and-so sew me up or I'll die."
Did they just put him back in a little jail and let him sleep it off?
Put him back in the jail.
That's funny.
Been in there many a time.
Man. It's still out there.
Yeah. It's locked up.
It is locked up.
But down at the picnic, I never did see many fights or any problems at all.
Yeah, I guess it probably stayed pretty tame. Everybody wanted to enjoy the festivities.
Yeah.
What was the picnic like then?
Oh, it is great, boy.
Really?
It is the thing for Leonard.
Really?
Since I was a little kid, we'd come over here in a wagon on Saturday and stay all evening and go home.
Wow.
Till later on when I catch a ride over here.
Sure. But when you were young that way, what made it? I mean, I'm sure you were playing with friends and stuff, but what were the activities like?
Oh, they had every kind of a ride, and they had dancing girlies, the girls. Now that was something. They'd come out there on the stage and shake around, very few clothes on.
Uh-oh.
And these men would gather, boy, they'd gather in there. And
the more things change, the more they stay the same.
They'd shake a little, and they'd say, "Now that's not near what you're going to see
Sure.
inside. Get your ticket," and they'd go back in there. And my dad and I were standing there and watching him, and he got me with the arm, walked up there, and he said, "Son, don't go back down around that place there, because you might see something you don't need to see." Well, he walked off, and I said, "I got to go down there." And I looked in this little hole in that tent, and I seen something I didn't need to see. I seen my dad over. put that in there.
Mark that.
Yeah, that's good.
That's funny.
But it was something. They'd have everything. Had an old tent put up and ride a bull in it. The
cool.
neighbor's bull, they'd bring him in.
That's the beginnings of the PBR there.
Maybe bring that back.
Fly plane over and man jump out in the pool and Leonard pool.
Hold on. Fly a plane over and jump out.
Now he'd jump out of the plane.
Yeah.
And jump in the Leonard pool.
Into the lake, the pond.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had a boat on there then.
Yeah, I've heard about the boat.
Take you a ride on it for a quarter.
Cool.
That's a short ride.
Yeah.
Then they had some balloons, that to build a fire under.
Yep.
Put up. They'd go up.
Man,
And
I'd
this
like
is
to
the
see
truth.
that.
One of them fell in a board-arc tree right up before I live.
Had to
That
go get him
happens.
down.
They had to get him out.
Wow.
What was the what was the food like at the picnic? Did they have like food vendors?
Oh yeah,
Like people selling barbecue or
Yeah.
whatever?
all kinds of anything to get you money.
Oh yeah, sure.
Target practice, have them guns get you to shooting, and they had one. You real good, they switched guns on you. You couldn't hit one of them.
It's kind of a two-part question, but did the Leonard picnic ever have maybe a tent where they would show movies or anything?
No.
No. Second part, what was the first movie you saw in a theater, with or without sound, possibly?
Well, I can't remember just what the name of it. Oh, I used to go to a movie back in the 30s over at Blue Ridge.
Cool.
That year we lived down by Pike, and they had a free movie every Saturday out on the street.
Mm.
Silent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah.
Was it done to a music soundtrack or anything like that, or you're just watching a
Just
movie?
watch him for nothing.
Yeah. But they'd act it out. I mean, it'd be a good movie, right?
Yeah. They wasn't very good. They wasn't very good actors.
For the time.
Did you see, like, during the war and stuff, did you see some of those movies? They had, like, the patriotic stuff at first, and they'd show
No,
the
I never did.
newsreels?
I never did go to many movies,
Really?
and I never did buy any Cokes. I bet I never drank but one Coke in my life till I was 17 years old.
Really? Wow.
I that money was hard to get,
Sure.
and when I got some, I was afraid to spend it. I still won't buy $1 cup of coffee. Why, my God, I can't. I can't make myself buy $1,
I like
and
that.
I can afford it.
Sure.
Yeah. So to protect the innocent, I was in a truck the other day with somebody, and I bought a cup of coffee, and I said, "Hey, you want a cup of coffee?" And he said, "I'd never spend $3 on a cup of coffee or whatever it was."
I'm that way by $1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a one-legged friend here. He was a cow trader,
That's a quote.
Fred Bunch. He was well known, and he was as smart a man as I ever seen. We had a lot of wisdom. And right after I married, he told me, I was talking to him, I said, "I just don't know how I'm going to make a living." He said, "T-Bone, Ken, don't worry about making a living. Just live on what you make, and you'll be all right."
Yes, sir.
And I still live by that, and I always have.
No truer words.
I've actually got that written down right here.
And,
I've got it written down from last one, yeah.
and another thing he told me that I'd never forget, I was down at the barn, and I was cussing around there about something. He said, "T-Bone, Ken, as long as you got your troubles at the barn, don't worry about them. When they get in the house with you is when you want to buy."
That's also good advice to be had.
Yeah, he was just brilliant.
Yep.
Got his leg cut off in the planter when he's 9. Never did quit working.
Jeez, 9 years old.
9 years old. And we organized this saddle club down here. He and 3 or 4 more. He'd ride a horse.
One-legged.
That old leg laying out there, it looked terrible. It didn't work like these legs now. It's
Sure.
stiff.
Sure. Jeez, man. Yeah, losing your leg at 9 in the not the heyday of modern medicine. You know, that's something.
And I was roping a lot of calves back at Homer's then and getting screw worms out of them. And he'd like to go with me and watch me rope them. And he'd carry the chloroform. One day he had to take a little move and he pushed his pants down and he showed me that leg. And it's cut off up above his knee and just old skin. It wasn't like they are now. It's just skin hang. And he wrap a wool rag around it and stick it down that wood. Had blisters all over. He said, now that'll make you drink whiskey. And he did.
Yes, sir.
Might make me drink whiskey.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pain never goes away.
No. Golly.
Yikes.
Man. I was going to ask this. Can I ask this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, you've lived a long life.
I have.
In your time, what do you think is the most amazing thing you've seen?
Yeah.
Something that sticks out to you that you just like, I mean, you know, we hear a lot about like the moon landing, you know, landing.
Something you saw that you were just mind blown by that you just.
There's a lot of things that's mind blowing to me. I don't know what it is.
Can you pick a few, 1, 2, 3 of them maybe?
No, I don't really know.
I'll give you an example. Something that blew my mind the other day was watching them land that rover on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing to me.
I just can't understand it.
Seeing the 360 photo landscape, the landscape of Mars was one of those moments where I went, wow, I'm looking at the sky where basically we can now start creating constellations from Mars. Does that make sense? Because you're looking up at a different star pattern.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So now let's imagine we're Indians and we're looking up, and Native Americans, and we're looking up at the sky. We would be making constellations at their point in Earth's growth.
We're just now.
Sorry, this is a little sidetracked, but
we're at the point where they're really talking about putting habitats and people on Mars. That's just amazing to me.
It is.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this then. When you first bought that tractor in '49, was it night and day difference what you could do on the farm?
Oh, yes.
I mean, that had to be
Well, before that, I had worked sharecropper, and I saved up a little money and bought that tractor. And it was just a little small tractor. And that's the year I made one bale of cotton. I bought it, and
easiest bale of cotton you made, though.
And I had to borrow $100 on it to pay it off. And I didn't make any crop. I caught them mink and lived. But the next year I went over to the bank up here to get some money, and they said, yeah, we'll loan it to you. And I said, well, I got to have it. And it's the only time I ever borrowed any money to speak of. And I went to get it, and I told him I needed so much. He said, I can't let you have that much the first month. You got to spread it out. So I just laughed and went to Bonham and got it over. And I made it a point as quick as I could not to borrow a penny.
Sure.
First, when my wife got pregnant with my oldest girl, I didn't have the money to have it delivered, so I went up to the bank and borrowed $30, and I thought he never would let me have it. He finally said, son, I believe I'll let you have it. I believe you'll pay me.
Yes, sir, I will. Wow.
I always figured if a man paid his debts and didn't lie to you or steal, I'll take him as a good man.
Yep. That's a good baseline.
So you talked about your one-legged neighbor that had all the advice. Did you receive any advice from your dad or your granddad that stuck out to you?
Not really. They, neither one of my granddads said much.
Yeah. Just worked.
My granddad that lost all of his money in the bank at Bonham when the Depression, he's not the one that lost the place, but he lost his money. And his neighbor told me years later, said, Raymond asked me, he said, will you go to Bonham with me in the morning? He said, yeah, I'll ride over there with you. Said next morning early, he'd come by in the buggy, I got in, looked over, and there's a 45 laying brand new and laying there. And I said, "What are you going to do with that, Raymond?" He said, "I'm going to get my money."
Man. All right.
Can you imagine driving a horse right out there to Bonham and back in a day?
No.
No, that's a lot different trip than it is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot further.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we just run to Bonham now if we need to go pick something up.
Yeah,
You've been in a few different businesses.
I've been in a little bit of everything.
You've dabbled in a few things. I didn't know you were into monkey business.
Yeah, monkey business.
That's pretty good.
I had a
That was my segue.
Yeah. Your segue too.
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping T-Bone's gonna pick up when I'm laying down here.
One guy told me, he said, "I don't know about you," said back there and all that, said, "Look like you can change jobs and always come out on top." I was in the catering barbecue business for 20 years.
20 years. That's a career for a lot
And
of
then I
people.
was riding horses too.
Sure.
No monkey business?
I could have retired 4 or 5 times, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Do you have anything else to go with that?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, and you can say pass on this, but did you ever have a run-in with the law or anything? Did you ever get a ticket, or what was your first run-in with the law?
Never had one.
Never had one.
Never had a speeding ticket.
You hung out up on the square and you never had a run-in with the law?
All my cousins
That's pretty
did.
good.
Been to jail and everything. I bought, first car I bought was an old Model A Ford. My daddy had bought an old car then, the first one he ever owned. He wouldn't let me drive it. And I got one, and I put a nut under the accelerator where I wouldn't run it too fast.
Yeah.
I took care of my...
That's smart.
That is smart. I wish I'd have done something.
My four-wheeler had one when I was
It
in
wasn't
third grade. I just removed the governor on it. And,
wasn't going to run very fast anyway.
Right. So that was your first car. It was a Model A, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. I kind of wish that thing was still around. It'd be worth some money now.
A guy bought it, and he kept it till 6-7 years ago, and I don't know where it went. It was worth some money.
Yeah.
is that going to be a hand crank or is that a...
No, it had a
starter.
hand crank, but
Yeah.
it had a starter.
Cool.
It had a rumble seat in
rumble
it.
seat? Yeah.
That's cool.
I think I gave $100 for it.
Wow.
Is that at a Bonham dealer or would there be
No, I bought it from an individual.
Okay.
Lady had it here in the chicken house.
How would you buy one brand new? Where would a dealership be if there was a dealership?
I'd never bought but 2 new cars in my life. I bought a pickup in 66 and one in 69. That's the only new cars I ever owned.
Jeez.
You a Chevy guy?
Chevy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it here.
Are you brand loyal? Do you like Chevys only?
It
or-
doesn't make me any difference.
That's kind of how I am too. He's a Chevy guy, but I'm
He's a
pretty-
Chevy guy.
He is.
A lot of people are.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Billy Man Watts and maybe Jimmy too were Chevrolet.
Were they?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to get a tattoo or anything, but but if I had my choice, I'd probably take a Chevy.
Back then, I guess it would have been a Chevrolet if I could have bought one. But
Cool.
What did you buy in the '60s?
Those
the two that you bought.
they were Chevrolet
Were they?
pickups.
Yeah.
Right on. And who did you buy those from?
I bought them from Bonham. I can't call the name of the place. Tried to buy it down here, and they beat the price up there. I bought a new 65 for $2,100.
Cool.
Then I bought a new 69 for $2,900. That's no cooler on it.
The first one was,
And right
did you say
after
a
that,
64?
they went up
Yeah.
high,
Did you say the first truck was a 64?
65.
65. So when you get a 65 brand new, what are you doing with that? Are you hauling
I was pulling the horse trailer.
trailers? Yeah. So that,
I done away with that, and then I drove to Fort Worth and took that and down.
yeah.
Made a little money.
Yeah.
Now, we know about the saloon down here, or the place you could do the little cafe and stuff. Now, some of these buildings, did you have any experience with some of these buildings up here? Did you help build or make any of them, or did you ever see them coming up?
That building right up here where the auto parts used to be.
Crawford's?
No,
Oh.
right up the street here where Jackson used to have.
Okay.
It's about 2 buildings up there. And I was thinking about it the other day. I don't know where that's still there. I bet I'm talking over here, but
You've been good.
You okay?
Yeah.
but we was in town, and this guy, he had a shop here, and he's building the front on this building, and he wanted to hire us to help him. Said he'd give us 50 cents an hour. Boy, that was money.
Yeah.
And we got up there, and they mixed concrete on the floor, pulled it up there with a pulley by hand, and poured in that form.
Sure.
And I don't know where that's still the same form that is in 1941.
Oh, wow.
I don't know where it's still the form that we used or not.
Man.
It had old axles, iron in it.
No rebar?
Yeah.
Just whatever, huh? So 50 cents an hour. And that y'all were excited about that, huh?
Yeah.
Man.
I've worked for 50 cents a day, many a day, right across, right there.
Really?
I live 4 miles down there.
Jeez.
And when it rained, I walked.
By the railroad tracks? Is that what you're pointing
Crawford.
at? Oh, at Crawford. Yeah, across the
Crawford's
street.
Auto.
Yep.
I finished school in 40, and I came over here and asked him would he hire me, and he said, yeah, he give me 50 cents a day. And that's what I got. You talk about 50 cents an hour. I was getting 50 cents a day for about 9 hours. I worked for him a year.
What were you doing?
Tearing down the motors and rebuilding them.
Oh, okay.
I was doing the tearing down and cleaning them up, putting
Sure.
them back. But I did learn how to work on a car.
Yeah, I bet. Imagine you did. You know, I was making this point to my wife the other day. Used to, when you'd buy a car back then, they give you a manual that tell you how to, like, you know, clean the injectors or, I don't know, change the timing or whatever. And now they give you a manual that says, don't drink the fluids. Like,
Yeah.
we've gone wrong somewhere, you know. Used to.
Thanks to lawyers.
I know it, man. We're such a litigious society. So you were at Crawford's. You built that building. You were at Crawford's working. What are some of the other? We know you hunted. We know you baled cotton. What are some of the other odd jobs you've done? Just out of curiosity. Just anything you could.
Yeah, I roped a lot of cattle for people in
Did
the
you?
pastures and hauled them.
Yeah.
I hauled them. After I married, I bought a 41 model, I believe, Chevrolet pickup. You know how big it is.
Not too big.
And I had a trailer made the same size, and I was running some cows then. I had some pastures leased. And I had a little trailer that size, and a fella here in town said, I'll give you $10 to haul a load of cattle to Fort Worth for me. And I said, you got it. And I hauled a load of cattle to Fort Worth for $10.
Hey,
Had to go down by Dallas. Couldn't go, it wasn't 121. Was it?
sure.
Yeah.
I don't imagine I made much money, do you?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a lot
$10
of money.
bucks.
Yeah.
You mentioned Fort Worth earlier. I would assume you had a lot of business over there. You had a lot of business in Fort Worth with cattle and maybe.
No, I
maybe,
just carry some down there. I didn't run a lot of cattle, but I'd take them down there to sell them.
Okay. I was thinking maybe with events, cutting events or anything.
Do what?
Were you involved in cutting events there for the
Fat Stock Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, livestock
Oh,
show.
yes.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah.
About 15 years.
15 years of going.
Yeah.
I hadn't been in a long time.
I haven't either.
We should do
Yeah.
a
It just
siren
ended,
on.
didn't it?
Did it?
February, mid.
One time, this one-legged guy and I carried a load of cattle to Fort Worth. He had an old International. He'd have to, every time he shifted, he'd have to get his knee and pull it up and shift. And we was walking up the street, I'll never forget it, to go get her check there at the building. And there was a one-legged guy standing there on a peg leg with a can, little old can in his hand.
Do they?
And this friend of mine just reached in his pocket and give him some change. And here we he was a character.
We had when we first moved here in '92 or so. There's a guy that hung out at the Quick Check Celeste and drank coffee. Farmer guy. Well, he had one arm, and his other arm was replacement metal. So we were on the way to school one morning, and the car broke down. Well, he came by, and I forget his name right now. He came by and he gave us a ride. Well, he drove like crazy, foot on the pedal, and kept grabbing the steering wheel with his not good arm. And it was one of the most terrifying rides I've ever had.
When was that?
This is 1992 or so.
92.
I forget his name. It'll come to me later, but I wouldn't mind betting you know him.
I didn't know many. One arm.
One arm, yeah.
I had an uncle that lived here. It was one arm.
I don't know that I know anyone.
I'll think of it later. It'll come to me.
Well,
we're a little over an hour. You want to wrap it up right here?
I'm ready.
You good?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Well, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If we could close on one of the last questions here, just kind of a broad question is, what would you say you've learned about life? If you could boil it down to just a couple of things.
I've learned about life. My wife taught me about life. Don't get upset. Just keep it going. I had one of the happiest families I believe anybody in Leonard, Texas had with no money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down.
Those are words to live by.
Happiest day I ever had was when I married her, and the worst days I had when she passed away at 73 years. But
don't get upset. Just keep it going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a great place to end.
Yeah.
Well, I don't get around too good. Them strokes like to got me.
Well, you said something about that.
I've had 2 or 3 of them, and if you notice, my face it's tight.
I
I wouldn't have noticed anything had you not said anything.
It feels like it's drawn.
Yeah.
Then my leg went to sleep. My hands, the whole side, I lost. But in about a day, it went to coming back.
Came back. Well, that's amazing.
Did have they got you on anything?
I don't go to the doctor.
That's why he's 98.
That's true.
Well, happy birthday to you, too, by the way, or belated now.
My daughters always want me to go. I'm hurting all the time somewhere.
Yeah.
Want me to go to the doctor. I said, no, I'm not going to it. I got a letter yesterday wanting to send me get a wellness deal on the telephone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Threw it in the trash.
Hey, some people believe that. Don't go to the doctor.
I do. I take a half of a thyroid pill. That's all the medicine I take. I'm allergic to everything.
Really?
I'd go get me a shot for this virus if I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But about any kind of medication I take, I'm nervous.
Sure.
Hesitant.
I get tangled up here.
Well, are you allergic to anything, Matthew?
Not really, like poison ivy apparently, but nothing. I say no when the doctor asks.
No known drug allergies.
Yeah.
Any food allergies?
No.
I can smell kerosene, coal oil, gasoline, or anything. Give me asthma. I've had asthma since I was 11 years old.
Really?
Had pneumonia, like they died.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything to doctor it for, just put a plaster on me. And after that, I had the asthma. I went to the Army, and they didn't keep me long.
You managed to not get this COVID then, huh?
I hadn't yet.
Hadn't yet, yeah.
I've been staying in, though. I stayed house. But I would go get a shot in a minute. My daughter has, but I'm afraid it'll kill me.
Sure.
Have you experienced anything like the cold that we had a couple weeks ago or a week ago?
You'd never see anything like that.
A time or two I've had something I thought might have been it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I had 2 or 3 little spells with my arm and my heart. I never did go to the doctor or anything. I thought I was going to die, but I didn't.
Jeez.
I'm not going to the doctor.
Hey, it's working so far, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it has.
Good.
You said you've been staying in. You hadn't got corona either, have you?
No.
I got it. I was the lucky one to get it.
I'd get one in a minute if I could.
My wife got her shot.
I'm afraid of it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet. The military's gonna make me take it. So
I lost 2 nephews right down here in the last month. They lived in Sherman. One of them was 59 and the other one was 68. 68, the age of my daughter. Both of them had it and died. Healthy people.
Wow.
really,
And then my granddaughter up in Tennessee, her husband had it and died, and she took it and almost died. She's in the hospital a month, so I'm afraid of it.
yeah, I don't blame you.
And I noticed they're turning it loose, so just
Yep.
They are.
I'll just hide out a little more.
So,
I get my dog in the
Well, you're doing good at it.
I get my dog in the car every day and take her riding.
well, that's good. Well, Mr. Kuhn, we appreciate it, sir.
Well,
Thank you, T-Bone.
cut it off.
You're welcome to come back anytime. We want to let you know that you have an open invitation here. If
I
you
don't
just want
think you'll want me back
Oh, we do. We do. We
after
like.
this.
No, we want
if you want to
back.
come in and talk for 10 minutes with us, we're happy to oblige.
Yeah, or 2 hours. It doesn't matter. So, well,
But
we
I
appreciate
lied
it.
to you a little about that picnic tent, you know.
What's that?
Looking through that hole.
Looking through the
Oh,
hole.
yeah. We got it.
What story?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr.
But
T-Bone Kuhn.
I've noticed I do lie a little.
Oh, do you?
On dates, I'll start to tell somebody, give them the wrong date.
I think that's forgivable. So,
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good evening.
I appreciate it. Okay.